Thank you all so much for joining. Oh, yep, we're going to go ahead and record this webinar. So thank you all so much for joining us here today to learn more about the Circular Transportation Network. I'm Susan Renaud. I'm the Director of Special Projects for the Circular Economy Development Center, and I'll refer to that as the CEDC from here on out. And while I'll explain the Circular Transportation Network, I first want to just give you a quick overview of the CEDC. The presentation should only take about 10 minutes, so we'll have plenty of time for discussion and questions at the end. So to give a little bit of context about who the CEDC is, we were formed as a result of legislation in 2022 to develop circular economies in Colorado. We're administered by Circular Colorado, which is a local nonprofit, and we hold a contract with the state to create and to run the CEDC. And our funding comes from the C3 Enterprise Fund. Our purpose is to grow existing local end markets for materials, also to create new end markets that don't currently exist in Colorado, and to address any infrastructure needs and transportation challenges to get those materials to end markets. We're also tasked with delivering 3 full circular economies in the state over the next 4 years. So this is our team. Our group consists of professionals with many different areas of expertise. We have different backgrounds in business, waste diversion, product design, government, economic and business development, and environmental health and safety. And in addition to our staff on the Front Range, we also have 3 satellite offices throughout the state. We have one that covers the Colorado Springs area in Pueblo. We have one in Grand Junction, and then we also have a new one in Southwest Colorado. So the CEDC helps companies, municipalities, and stakeholders transform linear consumption models into circular economies. And our vision is to keep materials out of the landfill and to keep them circulating at the highest value in our local economy. So to do that, we really act as a quarterback to identify and coordinate circular projects and to bring partners together. We provide a whole range of services and technical assistance for our projects. A lot of it lies in economic development because so much of creating a circular economy really is in that space. And to do that, we attract manufacturers to Colorado. We can help them with funding assistance and site selection. In certain instances, we'll also help with public-private partnerships. So we really just try to plug everybody into their place in the loop. We also address barriers to collection and transportation logistics. We found that this is a big hurdle in circular economies. And then we also develop end markets and try to get recycled content to local manufacturers that can turn the materials into new products here in Colorado. We've published a circular model guide, which is a step-by-step guide of our process. And I'm not going to go into it in detail here, but you can find it with more information on our website if you're curious to learn more. So we're currently working on about 8 projects. The project I'm about to share addresses regional transportation, but other projects target circularity around more specific materials and developing end markets for those. So our first project is the Circular Transportation Network. And what we're doing with that is essentially running milk runs to mountain and rural communities to collect recyclable materials that wouldn't be collected otherwise and would be going into the landfill. So we pick up materials for free using trucks that are currently returning to the Front Range empty. And it's really meant to address recycling challenges for business and municipalities with a lack of access to recycling and prohibitive transportation costs due to economies of scale. So we'll accept many recyclable materials that are currently part of community recycling programs, as well as a few others. Some of the other more niche materials are plastic film, and also down-filled products like jackets and sleeping bags. We intend to collect most recyclable materials eventually, but we're starting with these because we have clear end markets for them. We can also pick up all materials from a site, but we can just pick up one or some materials. So if, for instance, a business or a municipal drop site that's already recycling other materials wanted to add plastic film to their offerings, we could pick up just that one material. So the criteria for acceptable materials are listed here. I want to be clear too that we're not a MRF, so that materials need to come source separated and clean. It's important to keep the contamination below 5% because we just don't have the ability to separate it out. We also can't get containers with hazardous material residues like chemicals, motor oil, or pesticides. I also just want to note that the criteria for downfilled products will be a little bit different. I won't go into it here, but if you have some, contact me and we can discuss that separately. So for collection, materials need to be in gaylords, super sacks, or bales, and then each one needs to be on a pallet for pickup. And the reason for this is because each of our trucks will have a little donkey forklift that rides along to get the materials onto the truck. And the good part about this is that you don't need a loading dock in order to have your materials picked up. And if you need help getting super sacks or pallets, let us know. We have a source for those, and so we may be able to help you out. So how are we doing this? This is a collaboration between the CEDC, so we're acting as the organizer, Front Range Transload, which is a facility in Pueblo that has access to both truck and rail, and B. Kirkland Trucking Company. And so the way it works is that the trucking company deploys trucks from the Front Range at regular intervals to locations throughout the state. And you can see some of the routes depicted here in different colors. And so normally those trucks return to Pueblo empty. And so we saw this as an opportunity to use that empty space to backhaul materials to the transload facility. So the materials then are taken to Front Range Transload that I mentioned before, which is in Pueblo. You can see the site here. They have a warehouse. Eventually there will be a hoop structure. They're also setting up a commercial drop site just for local businesses in Pueblo. And then you can see that it sits on a rail spur as well. So with the multimodal, it really helps for the transportation. So once the trucks come in, those materials will be aggregated, baled, and then shipped to local and regional end markets, primarily by rail. And so for the model to work, the circular transportation network can't pay for materials, but on the upside, they also don't charge for the materials to be picked up. And something that I want to clarify is that this is not intended to pilfer customers from existing haulers. We're really just trying to capture material that wouldn't be diverted otherwise. So for participation, we've done our best to design this to make participation as easy as possible. To sign up to be a collection partner, you'll just go to our website and fill out a form. There's no commitment in this. It's just to get you set up in our system. I added a link to the webpage in the chat. And so if you click on that and scroll down a little bit, there's a button there that will take you to the sign up form. So once you've signed up, then you can collect materials, as I mentioned before, in gaylords, super sacks, or bales, and put them on pallets. And then once you've collected your materials and you need them to be picked up, you'll just submit a pickup request form. That's in the same spot on our website, and it's just an electronic jot form. So on that form, we'll just ask you what materials you have to be picked up, and we'll ask you the weight of the materials. This can be kind of general, but it's really important for us in planning our routes just with the weights in the trucks. We'll also ask you to share 1 to 2 photos of the materials. If you fill out the form from your phone or a tablet, you can just take photos directly and upload them to the form directly from there, or you can still do it from your computer as well. So then we'll use those photos and the information that you provided on the form to review just what you've submitted, and we will verify that the materials meet the criteria. And if they do, then we'll work with you to schedule a pickup. And the return routes, just so you know, they're not static, so they can change according to the requests that we receive. And we'll design the routes to pick up the materials as they're requested. We're also still working out the threshold as to how far off of a major thoroughfare we can deviate to pick up a material, but we can work that out with you on a case-by-case basis. So this was designed to benefit rural and mountain communities in a few different ways. The network allows businesses and municipalities to recycle that couldn't do it otherwise. It provides opportunities to divert different materials that might not be available to communities currently, such as film, plastics, or textiles with down. It also creates economies of scale for small-scale generators that would find transportation costs of hauling material prohibitive. And as a bonus, it can eventually reduce trash hauling costs by reducing the volume of waste that you have going into the landfill. So for next steps, we're gearing up to start a few routes soon. We definitely have many signups, but the participants are still aggregating materials prior to scheduling their pickups. So we're really testing this as a proof of concept, and we anticipate that it'll evolve over time as we learn about the logistical needs of our rural and mountain communities. And while we want to pick up as many materials as possible, we also just need to balance the ability to offset the transportation costs with the end markets and material values. So it'll be a little bit of a work in progress. But our hope is to get as many partners on board as possible. And we'd love for you to participate and also for any help that you may be able to provide in identifying other potential businesses or drop sites that would like to participate. We have a toolkit that we can share with partners to promote the program. And so if you'd like to share this with others, feel free to let me know and I'd be happy to share that with you. So thanks for your time. This concludes the presentation. In the remaining time, we'd love to hear from you with just any questions that you may have. We'd love to hear any materials that you currently have, whether they're on the list or not, that you want to divert. Just any logistical challenges that you're currently facing and just how we can best help you. So with that, I'm going to end the screen share and I'll just open it up for discussion. All right. Great. Does anybody have any questions to start us off? Yep, Sarah?
Hi, thank you so much. I was wondering, so our Public Works and Parks and Rec team would potentially be interested in this for the city of Salida, and specifically the plastic film. We already work with recycling haulers on other items, but that's kind of one that we get in a lot and we don't have a good way to deal with it. I think you already addressed schedule and the container size and placement. But I was wondering, do you have any examples of other cities? Like, how much does it impact staff workload?
That's a good question. And I honestly wish I had an answer for you because it's still so new that we don't know. Do you already have a drop site where you're collecting the materials?
We already have a recycling bin at our public works station and our Parks and Rec office. So there is definitely feasibility for us to put a pallet and a Gaylord right next to it. But, you know, I'm sure that there's a little bit of scheduling back and forth with you all. And so I just wanted to kind of get an assessment of like how much time do you think we would have to designate towards that and or pickup?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So the way it works is when you sign up, I'll schedule an onboarding call with you and with anybody else who might be touching the material or involved in it. And with that, we'll kind of work out the logistics of how a pickup might work. And then from there, hopefully it shouldn't take too much of your staff time because it's really more about aggregating the material. And then once you've aggregated as much as you can, then you'll just submit that materials request form and then we'll coordinate with you directly on that. So there's a little bit of back and forth, but we really try to streamline it as much as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks. I hope that answered your question. Great. All right. Hi, Doug.
Hey, for the rest of you, I've been working with Renee along the line of collecting styrofoam, and that's not part of their initial regimen, but we're talking about it. Do any of the rest of you have styrofoam or would like to be involved with styrofoam collection?
People can also put it in the chat too if you don't want to come off of mute. So just to clarify too, so we're not currently picking up styrofoam through the circular transportation network. It's a material that we're looking at, but that we currently aren't able to collect it. But Doug's doing really great work up in the Silverthorne area. Great. Doug, did you have any other questions?
No, that was it.
Okay, great. Well, maybe we'll see if things come in the chat, and then if there are other specific things, we can circle back.
Cool.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions?
Yes, I was curious, when you fill out the form saying, hey, we've got all of our stuff, you know, we're ready for you to come pick it up. What is what's the timing on that, you know, from kind of submitting to waiting for pickup?
That's a really good question. And that's an area where we'll need to be a little bit flexible because depending on where you're located, it depends on the frequency of the trucks that go out to those locations. Some of them, there are trucks that go out really frequently, and then there are other times that maybe they'll go once a month. So I think some of it'll just depend on which route you're on. And so that'll determine, you know, how quickly we can get your material picked up. What we've been telling some folks is that, you know, ideally, we would love it if people could pick up, or, you know, collect like 6 super sacks of material prior to scheduling a pickup. If it's not that, we can discuss it. But we'd say, you know, if you were aiming to have 6 super sacks picked up, maybe when you have 5 of them collected, go ahead and schedule a pickup just to anticipate that lag time. Go ahead, Doug.
Oh, I do have another question. So the trucks only go to Pueblo. That's where they're based, and that's always their end.
They go back to Pueblo. Yep, so that's where they end up, but a lot of them actually do go through Denver, and so there are times where they'll go through Denver as well.
Okay, so if this did work out, would there be a possibility of using the Denver styrofoam location that I've been using?
That's something we could discuss, but there may be a way to route trucks through Denver.
Might be possible. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you researched, do you know in Pueblo whether there are styrofoam collection places?
You know, not that I
But
know
I can
of.
research it.
Yeah, not that I know of, but we can do a little bit of research and see if they
Okay,
have.
I'll look into it.
Okay. Yeah. All right, great. Thanks. Any other questions? Let's see. Does cardboard need to be baled? And how clean does it need to be? Tape and staples removed. That's a great question. Cardboard does not need to be baled. You can also put that on a pallet. If you can fit it in a super sack or in a gaylord, that would be great. But no, a baler is definitely not necessary. We don't want that to be a hurdle for anybody in the program. As far as tape and staples removed, as far as I'm aware, no, they do not need to be removed. Great. Any other questions?
Hey, I had one, Susan. It's Mike from A Basin here.
Oh, great. Hi.
Less a question, more a thought for the group, but we're lucky here in Summit County that we have both the MRF that handles our organic material and compost, and then also being with our proximity to the Front Range, that glass recycling and some of the bottle to bottle availability down there is still a viable option for us, and all that goes through our MRF, and it's great. But something we've heard a lot is folks that even are just maybe one mountain pass west of us, or south or north, or just in any other way remote, like some of these folks might be, that's often the barrier for those other materials like glass or organic material. Are those kind of top of your priority list for like the next batch of materials you'd like to spread your wings into?
We're looking at them. Yeah. Those two, we're not as much involved with the organic side. It's really more the recyclable material side, just for the more for the kind of the circularity
Yep.
in that aspect. I mean, compost is very circular. But yeah, we're looking more at those. And then with glass, it would be amazing to be able to crack that nut, but right now we're not able to do it. It's just logistically challenging, as you all know, with just the weights of the glass and transporting it as well.
Right.
So yeah, but it is on our radar for sure. And you're not alone. We've had so many people ask us about glass. It's a big one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we recognize how lucky we are. Just the fact that Summit County, as rural and remote as it sometimes is, for better or worse, we do have I-70 right here. So
yeah, you have great access. It's really, yeah.
We do. Thank you.
Great, sure, no problem. Daniela, I saw your hand.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is Daniela from Granby, so I'm north of Mike, Summit County, and we are in Greene County, and we are really behind on everything compared to the Summit County. So I would ask Mike if he can put maybe his email in the chat, because I try to jumpstart a little bit recycling thoughts in the county, because lots of people think that despite that we putting recycling in the bins, it goes later on into the landfill anyway. And so that's the rumors I live in. And my question would be regarding the aluminum cans, if there is a place that actually it would pay off to sort the aluminum cans, and they would probably sell better than single stream recycling.
Right. So with I'm so sorry. Could you repeat that one more time? So with the aluminum cans, if they're
Do you have some kind of the stream just for the aluminum?
We do. Yes, we do. So the one thing to consider though is that with this program, we actually can't pay for the materials. So you may have someone in Grand County that can take aluminum and that will pay for the materials. But with what we are doing, we don't charge for the transport, but we also are not able to pay for the materials.
But if we sorted aluminum that you can get for your circular enterprise some money back, people would be willing to do that as long as they see there is no waste behind this. So that there is more economic process. And if we would pay for your transport a little bit, we don't looking for to get the money out of aluminum cans, but people think that we are doing lots of waste just putting in the recycling bins, because we think that the way it's going pick up and it goes from one company to another, we got all these giants in the process. It's one waste management picks up the containers, waste collections, they haul it to Denver, and Denver in goes to the Republic Services. It's another giant that they finally probably process it, but we don't see really, we don't have any information if we just sending the bunch of waste anytime it's being, smashed and contaminated from all the cardboards and dirty containers, if we make things worse or better.
I see. Yeah, no, through this program, it does require the source separation. But we are tracking all of those materials. And so we will be able to provide more information to you about where the material is going. Yeah. And all of that. However, I just want to be clear that if you already are having materials picked up by other haulers, we're actually not able to collect that material, because we want to make sure that we're not stepping on the toes or getting in the way of existing contracts with folks. But if there are materials that are not being collected, and are not being recycled currently, that we can take those. Did that answer your question, Daniela?
It did clarify. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks.
A couple questions in chat, Susan. Is there a difference between the containers? Can you describe them, specifically the Gaylord and the Super Stack?
Sure. Yeah. So a Gaylord is like a giant cardboard box. So if you've seen those, I don't know if you saw earlier in the presentation, there was a slide that had some images, and the Gaylord box is basically the size of a pallet. I think it's like about 40 or 48 inches by 40 or 48 inches. So that's a Gaylord box. And then a Super Sack, if you've seen them, it's almost like a giant grain sack, similar proportions. And they're really, they're big and sturdy. I think they're made of polypropylene. And with the Super Sacks, we do have a source for those. And so if you do need help getting those materials or getting the sacks, we can hopefully provide those for you.
And there was another question about what happens to the plastic wrap and number 1 and number 2 plastic.
Oh, great. Okay. Yep. So the plastic wrap or the film plastics, those all go to Driven Plastics. They're actually located in Pueblo. And they become an additive to asphalt in the paving process. They have a special process that they use, and it actually helps to extend the life of paving. So that's where all of those materials are going. And then the number 1 and number 2 plastics are going to Direct Polymers in Denver. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, so with that last information, maybe I could convince HC3 to do a specific plastic film collection, since you have a specific end market for it. So I'll work on that.
Great, thank you, Doug.
Regarding your number 1 plastics, Susan, clamshells.
Yep, we can take clamshells.
Wow.
All right.
Oh. Hey, Mike, did you get my information that I put in the chat?
I did, Doug. Yeah, I'm gonna reach out, and I'm also on the board for HC3 and work with Jess and Jen and all of them.
Yeah.
So duly noted there. You know who to talk to, but I'll also mention it. And it's stuff that we think about all the time.
Great.
How does someone get the toolkit, Susan? And is there a graphic of what can be recycled with regard to the plastics?
Great. Yes, we do. We have a graphic for all of the film plastics that I'm happy to share out with the group. And then as far as what was the second part of the question? Let's see. Oh, the toolkit. I'm also happy to share that with everyone as well. I think, Amy, we have a list of all the participants. And so if you'd like afterwards, we can send it out to everyone as a follow-up.
Yes, we'll send out a link to the recording also.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, this has been, it's been great. Thank you so much for your time and for being here and for your interest in the network. Any of you are welcome to reach out to me anytime with any specific questions you might have. I'm the main point of contact here, so you can just reach me at susan@circularcolorado.org. You'll be hearing from me also with all of those materials that we just discussed. So if there's anything else, oh, I actually see one more quick question coming in. But for anyone who signs off, again, feel free to reach out anytime with any other additional questions that come up. All right, let's see. It looks like from Sanjay, I use Ridwell as a customer. Is there a way for Circular Colorado to work with Ridwell to expand their services without messing up existing contracts? That's an interesting question, Sanjay. I don't believe so, but I don't know. So maybe that's a better one. Maybe we could take that one offline and talk about that. I don't know where you're located or kind of what that might look like, but yeah, I'd be happy to chat with you about that separately. Great, thanks. All right. Great. Well, I think we're all set. Any other last calls for questions? No? Okay. Well, thanks again so much for all of your time. We are very grateful, and yeah, we're always here if you have questions or need anything.